I get asked a lot about what it takes to be a web designer, mostly from people that are maybe looking to add that as a service or drop all their other services and just move into that. And I wanted to break down today the 5 things that I did before I ever called myself a web designer. Here we go. So number one, when I decided that I wanted to start offering website design services, I kind of gathered up what I was already good at, and I made a list of the things that I needed to take a class on. Just over time, there were quite a few things that I had already learned about website design, but I knew in particular that I was not going to be the best at doing the actual branding, and a lot of times people choose to add that as a service along with web design, or clients often expect that. So I actually took a course from Jamie at Spruce Road called Shareworthy Design. That's still one of my favorite courses I've ever invested in my business. The second course I bought was actually part of a bundle that Caroline, now she's Caroline Zook, Caroline and Jason Zook run Wandering Aimfully, but at the time she had a better branding course, and you may still be able to get that, but again, branding was kind of my weak spot, and that is something that I just felt like I needed some extra work in. And so one thing I would say if you're looking to add web design as a service is that kind of take inventory of the things that you already like, the things you're already good at, maybe people tell you you're good at, and go ahead and look and see like where are the areas that you need to improve on, not just in website design specifically, but maybe as business as a whole, or those other pieces of web design that are going to come into play, like branding. The second thing I did was I decided on what packages I wanted to offer. The first thing I'll say about this is that I went ahead and decided a price for those packages, and I set it at a price that I knew I would increase over time, but one that I was comfortable in saying out loud, comfortable telling people this is what I would charge, and went ahead and built my business around those starting prices. But again, really important to go ahead and plan for those increases, but if it helps you to build a lot more confidence in the beginning, go ahead and set those prices at a place that you feel comfortable with. The second thing I did for those packages was to make a list of what all was included in that. If you do a lot of business reading, or as you're learning more things about having your own business and increasing your skills, you'll learn that we want to solve problems with the packages and offerings and services that we provide. So do make sure you're really clear on the problem you're solving. It's not just a pretty website, or it's not just a sales tool. Like, really be clear about what you're providing, and then structure that into a package. I see a lot of advice for people that want to charge hourly for website design. I've never found a client to be happy with that unless it is a monthly maintenance type package. So I would really suggest really figuring out exactly, like, if it's how many pages or these different things. And you don't even have to put all of that on your site, but you need to know what's included in that so that we can work our way into number 3. The third thing I did was I actually developed my process. Of course, I did this from learning from other people, kind of looking at those packages, thinking to myself, what would be included in those packages, and really how long is that going to take? What's the steps that are going to need to come first? Definitely where I learned about branding, I knew branding needed to come first, and then kind of work into the actual design, which decisions you feel like need to come first. So a lot of this stuff, it's going to be a little bit of guesswork, a little bit of glancing at what other people are doing, not looking too hard, focus on your own self, focus on your lane type of thing. But go ahead and put that into something like Asana or Trello. Even if you just need an Excel sheet, find some type of way to organize that can be copied, and that way you have something to tweak as you run into issues. Keep that really fluid. So I had one in Asana, and it just had like a checklist all the way down, and so I'd have like branding stuff, and then I would have an area about like the navigation decisions, and then we made these security settings and things like that. And so I just made a step of everything I could possibly think of that was going to go into the entire process, and that way I was able to check it off and then adjust it when I found that that wasn't exactly how the process went in a few areas. But having that list to reference back, and then having that list to copy in something like Asana, was really helpful. The last thing I nailed down in that process was also a way to gather customer feedback and testimonials. So that was a huge part of starting my business, was being able to have people that said that I did good work and said things about my process and things like that. So having not just your packages outlined and your processes outlined, but also that very last step of going ahead and gathering up people's feedback and your testimonials so that you know how to make yourself a better web designer. Something else that was part of my process, this is kind of like point 3A, was that I had a way to accept payments and a way to send out contracts. And so at the time I used &Co, which now they charge. Now I use Dubsado, which I absolutely love. If you are interested in them, please leave me a comment below. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have about them. Their website and team are great, and I know a lot of creatives that use that service, but there's plenty of other ones. There's Wave, there's PayPal, and to be really honest, when you're just starting out, you're going to be sending people that link to pay you. And so if it comes through something even as reputable as PayPal, I doubt the person on the other end of that, if they trust you already to do the website, they're probably not going to give you a hard time for whichever way you're collecting payment. I would just offer some type of way online to electronically send that contract and electronically take their money. And when I say take their money, I mean let them pay you for your services. The fourth thing I did was I actually built my own website. This is not exactly number 4, but it's the fourth thing that I did, maybe not in that order. And I would suggest that you practice what you preach. Make sure that you have a website. It can be really simple. It can be a one-page, just like a long-form landing page, but make sure that you have something that people can look at and they say, oh, he actually does know how to do website design. Worst case, you can just offer that services to a few people in the beginning and maybe not have to have that website built up. But I feel like in this particular instance, kind of like if you took care of yards, if somebody came past your house, like you would really hopefully have a really nice yard. And so I looked at web design no differently and made sure that I had a pretty good looking website before I told people that that's what I was doing. And the fifth thing that I did that I consider a really important part of starting not only my web design business, but actually being confident enough to call myself a web designer. And I know, insert disclaimer here, I know a lot of people don't agree with this. It's probably 50-50. I actually did some work for free to build my portfolio, but to honestly, looking back at it, it was really more to build my confidence. And so now I'm really confident in the designs that I present, the packages that I present, and now of course it's been years, but in the beginning, I actually sent out a little questionnaire, like a survey, had people submit something that meant a lot to me. I had them just basically tell me their story. So I wasn't just picking somebody random. I really looked through and prayed through and talked through with my husband and with friends about who really should deserve sort of this free website. I mean, they're getting something that's worth a lot of value. And so I did that for a couple people and was able to completely test out all the stuff we've already talked about. I was able to test out that process, test out those electronic contracts. I was able to see how they would have, sent and accepted payments, and then most importantly, get their feedback. I had a lot of people even give feedback like, hey, we were in like 4 or 5 different programs and our conversations kind of got lost after a while. So that was really important for me to know in the beginning. And then I had people who gave great testimonials and were just really, really thankful for my work, and were able to, because of the questions I asked, they were able to speak to like my design ability, my organizational abilities and things like that. And so me then launching and going out into the world and introducing myself as a website designer, I knew that if they came back and looked at my website, which I was proud of that I had worked on, and I knew also that if they saw things like the testimonials and were able to click through my portfolio and see sites that I had built, that all of that just gave me the confidence I needed to be able to say, this is what I do, and to kind of state my claim on that. Okay, even though we're done with the list, I have one last little tip for you. It's not exactly something that I would say you have to do, but it was so valuable for me. So I would suggest that you track your time. Again, we talked through those packages, talked through the process, and if you kind of are estimating like how long this stuff's going to take you, I would really suggest, especially if you do some of them for free, go ahead and track what you're doing. Track how long it's taking you to do the branding. Track how long it's taking you to collect information from people. Look at how long it's taking you to actually maybe like lay out the site versus design it. And keep really detailed notes. I use a tool called Toggle, and it just keeps track of things. You can like organize it by client, and I still use that for all of my client projects. And I'm able to see over time that I've gotten faster, and I'm able to implement more and more skills that I've learned, and it just helps me really feel good at the end of the project. I can also calculate, like if I wanted to see how much per hour I made or something like that, to kind of really just to see the progression of things. So that's my last little tip. It's not something you have to do, but man, does it help you really refine that process and really see where you're spending kind of too much time or maybe not enough time, and to be able to reference against yourself and what you thought you were able to do, and maybe what took you longer or you're better at than you even realized. Okay, that's it for this video. If you have any other questions, maybe there's something that you thought would have been on my list, and maybe it was. Narrowing this down to like 5 things just was a little bit difficult, but those are 5 of the most impactful things that I did, again, before I felt confident enough to really call myself a web designer, and have that as the main thing that my business was built around and the main thing that I was offering. So if there's questions you have about that, questions that maybe you've done something differently, or you've heard this advice or read this, I'd love to know what those are. Feel free to send me a message or leave a comment here, and I'll be happy to get back to you. See you next time.